60 minutes.
A terrible mix-up. 2 baby boys switched at birth.
It was like an electric shock.
Raised by the wrong mothers.
I suddenly thought, my God, you know, he's not your child.
Their agonising choice.
It was very, very difficult.
A choice that went against all expert advice.
Well, I love him as my son. He is my son.
Do you feel Gavin is in...
The issue that affects every Australian.
Who are you to judge me that I won't be a good mother?
A woman makes a lousy dad just like a man makes a lousy mum.
What makes a fit and proper family?
It makes children a commodity. I want a child, I'll go to Myers and go to their sperm bank.
Deciding who has the right to have a child.
I can't sleep with women, so I can't get them pregnant.
Now, Daniel is gay, and you're prepared to bear that child for him.
I am.
Classic.
And one that goes to the very core of our society. What is a family, and who is a fit and proper parent? If you believe the opinion polls, Australians have very conservative views on the subject. No wonder the Prime Minister hit such a responsive chord when he first raised the issue 2 weeks ago. But John Howard and his many supporters might be surprised, even shocked, by some of the families in our studio tonight. They're as far from traditional as you could possibly get. Yet they argue they have every right to be parents, that their family values are ones that we'll all have to learn to accept. Good evening. Thank you all very much for coming to Melbourne on this chilly night. We'll start with a family from Newcastle. Ruth Boydell and Barbara Aldrich are a couple. When they wanted to have a child, they turned to Ruth's brother Stuart for help. Now, Stuart provided the sperm to Barbara, of course, not his sister. And hey presto, baby Morgan was born about 10 years ago. Barbara, you're the birth mother.
That's correct.
Do you think you're a normal family?
Normal. I think in many ways we have the same ups and downs as other families. We have the same tortures and traumas as other families and the joys.
Does Morgan miss out on anything, not having a father in the house?
No, I don't believe she does. No, she's a happy, very, very bright, articulate girl, top of her class, talented, well-balanced.
And Stuart, how much of a role do you play in Morgan's life?
Well, I suppose I'm more of an uncle figure. I'm
literally as well?
Well,
I mean,
literally,
you're an uncle
literally,
and a father.
yes. Yeah.
More donor than dad?
Yes, that's the role.
Okay, Peter Stokes from the Christian group The Salt Shakers. Are they a family?
I would have to say, from the perspective we come from, which is a biblical perspective, no. From our view, it's outside God's plan of a mother, father, and that's how the whole of nature is designed. You need a mother and a father to create a child. And you can't go outside of that without saying it becomes an unnatural family.
Well, Zara Thompson, you've grown up, and you are grown up in a lesbian household. Do you feel that you were disadvantaged?
Well, no, I don't. And how can you say a child is disadvantaged by not having a father when, what do you actually mean by a father figure? Do you mean a role model who shows them how to act and shows them what to do and gives them lessons in life? Or do you mean a loving parent who takes care of them and plays with them and teaches them? Both of those can be done by either gender.
Do you see yourself as a normal kid?
Yes. And I don't see how, as a teenage girl, I have been disadvantaged by not having a father, because I haven't.
Children don't need male role models. Children need fathers, and there's a big difference between the two. A father is there at 3 o'clock in the morning when the child wakes up with a nightmare. A child is there modeling to the child interactions with mom, how to relate to one another. A guy who kind of bops in and out twice a week or something is not a father. He may be a male figure, but that is not what a child needs.
What if there's a protector there at 3 a.m. when the child wakes up with a nightmare and it doesn't have to happen to be a male? But there's still that influence of a parent who is protecting you against the evil you've seen in your dream.
A woman can provide as much love as anybody, but a woman makes a lousy dad just like a man makes a lousy mom. You need both to have a complete family.
Barbara, mothers worry about everything, right? Mothers feel guilty about everything.
They do, yes.
You must feel at times, gee, are we doing the right thing here?
I don't feel guilty about it, no, because I've been a family therapist myself for many years now, and you know, I see the range of domestic violence, alcoholism, the whole 9 yards. Kids who are raised in normal heterosexual families who they come out of there absolutely devastated by it. So my children were to be here tonight, intelligent, articulate, happy, well-balanced kids. They were not allowed to be here because they're the argument against the argument.
Can we talk about that, please?
Yes, we can. I mean, that is indeed the situation. There were to be, your children were to be
That's
here
right.
tonight. Did you have any problem with exposing them to this debate?
Yes, I did. I thought about it a great deal.
And what
the
conclusion
only
did you
reason
come
we're
to?
here is
Should
because...
a 10-year-old hear this conversation?
Absolutely.
Why?
It's her life. Because I'll tell you why. Not because I care whether these people like my family or me or anything else. Doesn't matter to me. I've got my kids. We're happy. We're doing fine. We're well-loved, well-respected in our neighbourhood, in our community. Oh my God, I'm the president of the PNC, for God's sakes, you know? We're doing all right out there. But when this debate is out there in the community and my children hear and experience the hatred that gets generated by this, then it's my business, and I'm very angry about it.
Okay, Peter Stokes, you thought that having those children here tonight would be a stunt, didn't you?
I did, and I know it is.
And part of a lesbian campaign, that's
just
what you
like
thought.
calling us bigots is a stunt because that's what they like to throw at us. The whole idea is we do like to put children up in front to say, wonderful, we've got this wonderful arrangement and here are our children to prove it. And then we get the children to say, who are far too immature to make a judgment on their upbringing, I would say even up to the age of 20 or 25, to really judge whether they have had the right sort of upbringing.
We'll move on. Lisa Meldrum, you sparked this debate off, didn't you?
Yeah.
You want to have a child. You're an infertile single woman.
That's
You
right.
were barred from being able to do that in Victoria through IVF.
That's right.
And you won a federal court case that
That's right.
allowed you to do that. Now, you fought a long, long time to have a child as a single woman. Why?
Because it's what I want to do. I want to be a single mother. I think I have the right to do that.
But what about the child?
What about the child?
I mean, how much thought are you really putting into what is going to be the product of this desire that you have to have a child?
I have put a lot of thought into it, and it's people like you who cause trouble in this place. I mean, who are you to judge me that I won't be a good mother? And another thing too is
the Institute of Family
can I just say
Studies.
something? Just these people here, before were out in the green room. That's what you want to call it. This man was so loving to the little girl. It was beautiful. I've never seen such a loving family. And I think these people didn't like it when they saw it.
We never even had a feeling on that.
How could you not see it? You were
Peter Stokes,
standing
what's your
there.
concern about what Lisa wants to do?
My concern is basically for the children that are a product of this type of arrangement. It makes children a commodity. I want a child. This is the way I'm going to do it. I'll go to Myers and go to their sperm bank and I'll, I mean, this is where it's heading because men will see, and Lisa made the statement on television, the men will always be needed because we need their sperm. Now, is this what we're denigrating men to? Simply a machine that provides sperm so women can go and have a baby without any thought for the child itself.
Senator Julian McGorran, you're the only politician who had the nerve to come along tonight. What do you say to all of
Which
this?
I was very suspicious of. I think for all the noise that's being made from some of the guests over there, that basically sums it up. That society is treating this as treating this in a very conservative way. That it's mum and dad, and they don't want the governments or their society to go down a slippery slope, and so they're drawing the line on what IVF, the original intent was, and that is for mum and dad, who one of them may have been infertile, to have access to it. And that's it. Otherwise, you're going down a slippery slope.
Should the federal government actually do more than it's done, in your view, and actually take control of this? Because it's a hodgepodge, it's a state matter all around the place.
Yes, the federal government probably should make one national law and draw the line in the sand at the original intent of IVF for couples, mum and dad, because that is in fact a reflection of what the greater majority of society want, not the minority.
We have with us Diane Blood. Now, this is an interesting case. Her husband died a few years back. Before he died, his sperm was frozen, and Diane successfully petitioned the courts in Britain to allow her to use that sperm, and she gave birth to a baby boy about 20 months ago. She joins us via satellite from Sheffield.
When my husband died, I lost a very important part of my life and a part that couldn't be replaced. And this was something that we'd actually discussed, and really, I just wanted the rest of my life back. I wanted the rest of my life as we'd planned it.
And did you have concerns about bringing a child into the world without Stephen, without the man that you love to help parent?
Clearly, I would prefer it if my husband hadn't died. I would prefer not to have been widowed at 28 years old.
Would your husband have objected to you doing this?
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's what I'm saying, that his verbal consent were for precisely these circumstances. It's something that he wanted me to do, so I was carrying out his own wishes as well as my own.
Anna Crone, you're a bioethicist. Would you have released the sperm?
If I was the government or whatever?
Well, if you were an ethicist on a committee, would you have released it?
I wouldn't have, no. I think because I think there's a difference between IVF does tend to create the fiction that there is no father, which is quite different from a widowed experience or an experience where the father's deserted. One does have an identity. One knows that one father might have been a bad father, but there's no fiction about the father's identity.
I come from a religious tradition that shouts out loudly through the corridors of time that no one has a right to a child. A child is a blessing, a gift from God, a wonderful gift. It's not a consumer product. It's a human person with a dignity beyond compare. That's the tradition I believe that most Australians would believe and say yes to.
Well, Lee and Maria, you live together in Sydney.
Yes.
The child you're holding, who's the mother?
We're both the mother.
You're both the mother. Who's the birth mother?
I'm the birth mother. But
and Saul is 11 months old. Gary is the father. Now, Gary, you're gay. And Maria, you're also pregnant, am I right?
No.
Also by Gary?
Yes.
This is Parenthood by committee.
He has 3 parents.
He's a happy baby.
He's a very happy baby.
And when this child is an adolescent, and when this child starts to kick against the parenthood and starts to question and so on, and to raise hell like kids do, then the child has got a committee of parents. There isn't a definite mum and a definite dad.
But doesn't a heterosexual
So we're actually
couple
talking
make
about
a
parenthood by
decision
committee.
together? Yeah, a heterosexual couple makes a decision together about their child. We make a decision together about our child.
So the 3 of you make decisions for that child?
Mostly we make decisions. Gary doesn't live with us. Yeah. Gary doesn't live with us. Gary is known as the father of Saul. But Gary doesn't live with us.
And they're doing a fantastic job. I'm very happy with it.
You know, the big decisions we do make together.
OK, Doron Blake is nearly 18 years old. His mother chose his father from a sperm bank, and I spoke to Doron from Los Angeles earlier.
When I turned 6 or 7, I started to see that not having a father had its advantages and its things that weren't so good. And I know now, at least, I look around and I see that a lot of my friends, their moms and dads are either not with each other anymore, or they're separated, or they're fighting all the time and they're on bad terms. And I know that by just having a mother, it sort of skipped out on a lot of what could have been a lot of trouble.
Did you ever reach an age where you thought, you know, that's weird, that's unusual?
It's always just kind of been a natural part of my life. It's not like all of a sudden Mom dumped a big bucket of cold water on my head and said, you know, Doran, you're a sperm bank boy.
Didn't you ever, at any point in your life, think, you know, I want to know more about this person. I want to know who this person is?
I've never felt like he's my father. I've never felt like he's a part of my life at all. I feel like he contributed a couple of X's and Y's to, you know, my genes and to my DNA.
Now, Lisa, Doran also told us that he was called Sperm Boy at school.
Yeah.
Are you going to feel guilty if your child comes home crying and says, you know, Mum, they're calling me Sperm Boy?
No, well, I mean, when I went to school, you know, I know kids that went home crying because they had big ears and big noses and things like that. You know, I mean, children do that in the playground.
And you're not going to feel guilty about that if the child comes home saying that?
Because, you know, I have my own girlfriends who, you know, I've got one girlfriend whose husband left her when the child was, you know, around 2 months and hasn't seen the child since. And I've got another girlfriend and the father never turns up to take the child out when he's supposed to. I mean, I've seen this child devastated.
Gordon Waring-Smith, you've donated sperm over the years. You've got 17 IVF babies out there.
Yes.
And 2 of your own. That's quite an effort. Would you donate sperm to Lisa?
I went into it on the basis of helping people who had a medical problem, not because people were going into that situation because of their social situation.
You wouldn't give sperm in this way?
No.
And why is that?
Because I went into it specifically to help people who were unable to overcome a medical problem.
Heterosexual couples.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to our final case. Kim is a mother of 4. Her eldest son, Daniel, 22, is gay. Now, Daniel, you desperately want a child. You have a friend called Emma, who is a lesbian, and she has offered to provide you with an egg, although she doesn't want to play a key parenting role. And Kim, you have offered to carry that child
That's right.
for Daniel.
That's correct.
What are you thinking?
I'm a mother. I love Daniel. I've raised Daniel he's been with me for 22 years. Why shouldn't he have the right that every other person in this world has to have his own child?
But that's an extraordinary length to go to.
Well, it's not like, I mean, I woke up this morning and decided that I was going to be a homosexual and then I can't sleep with women so I can't get them pregnant. It's not a choice of my sexuality.
As a person, it is Daniel's right as a person to have a child.
And you're prepared to bear that child for him?
My ass I am.
Daniel, are you up to being a dad?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
How old are you? 22?
22.
And where do you work?
I work for KFC at the moment. I'm training for an assistant manager.
And what makes you think you're ready to raise a child on your own without a mother?
Well, what makes anybody think that they're capable of raising, you know, a child as
with both
two parents? I mean...
Look at 16-year-old kids.
Can we ask if he intends to continue to work and raise the child?
Yes, I do, as do a lot of professionals.
So you're going to work full-time, grandma becomes babysitter?
I will be a babysitter.
I'm sorry, so if your children decided to work and they had children, you wouldn't look after them?
You're immediately saying, I'm going to have a child which, quite frankly, I am not going to be able to look after. I'm going to give it to my grandmother to look after.
You prefer that I didn't go to work,
you are
be
married,
on a pension,
you are married,
and have nothing for
is
the
that
child?
Correct?
Yes, that is.
You have children?
I do have one son,
Does
yes.
do both of you work?
I think this is the slippery slope that society
Well, no,
would
let's
not
go to
accept.
Senator McGorran.
I'm pretty sure this is the slippery slope that society, majority of people in society out there watching, would not accept.
Dr. Rick Porter, would you do this? Would you do this? Would you take this case?
I would be a surrogate.
I would doubt whether our institutional ethics committee would come at that arrangement, and I would have to think through that without being put on the spot.
Professor Carl Wood, is this what you imagined when you began IVF?
Tell us, please, be honest.
Did you ever imagine this?
Probably not.
Not that particular situation, no, but it doesn't surprise me because, I mean, people talk about the slippery slope. We were not allowed to do IVF at all originally because people opposed it. I don't think you can be sure that this is going to be necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you could argue, for example, that in this situation, for example, or even the lesbian situation, one thing we do avoid is a 5% of conceptions of heterosexual couples are adulterous, and they'll never know their father.
Let's talk finally about the right to have a child. An automatic right to have a child, regardless of whether you can or you can't. Ian, you say there's not.
I'm going to be maybe disagreeing with some people here. I believe that our right is predicated on our ability. And our ability is about our ability to love, to care, to nurture, to guide and to educate.
So you should only be able to have a child if you're capable of rearing the child.
Absolutely.
And we're losing the satellite to London, so we'll just say thank you very much to Diane Blood for holding on there. And have you got any thoughts before you go?
Yes, I'd be desperate to talk on the rights issue. I mean, I don't think that I have a right to be a parent, but I did think that I had a right to try. I mean, the Bible's quite clear that the only right anybody has is to be called a child of God and to call God our Father. And beyond that, really, it's up to the grace of God what passes. And I'm very fortunate that He gave me a beautiful son.
Barbara?
Hi. I think this debate about rights to have children is very interesting because I actually don't think you have a right to have a child. Most people, without any intervention, can have a baby, one way or another.
So for you, the rights of the child is about how that child lives its life, not with whom.
Whether they're loved, cherished, respected, given adequate opportunities, educated, fed, clothed,
I come from a
That's your opinion. That's not my view.
It's such a complex issue that I don't think you can actually say you have a right to have a baby. You have the right to, if you like, try to have a baby, perhaps. And that's a very wishy-washy distinction, but I'm not sure you actually have the right to have a baby, no.
It's a very good distinction. I mean, the point that you need to make there is that a child can't be the subject of the object of a right. A child is a subject of rights. You can't claim a right to something. You can't commodify a child and turn it into something that's just desired. It has to be in terms of the child having rights to be cared for, certainly, but more than that, rights to an origin, rights to an identity, right to a relationship to both parents, right to know and to be cared for, and to have access to both parents and so on. It's those things. The child has rights. We don't have rights to have a child.
Well, it's obvious we're not going to agree on whether there is a right to have a child. So I'll thank you very much all for coming tonight and wish you good night.